At that moment, my fingers gripping the crystal wine glass had turned white at the knuckles from excessive force, the amber liquid inside swaying under the dim lights, refracting dizzying fragments of light, just like my heartbeat that was about to explode. This was a private club on the top floor, with the dazzling night view of the river outside the floor-to-ceiling windows. Yet I felt like I was standing at the edge of a cliff. Maxwell sat across from me, but his slender hand wasn't holding mine. Instead, it rested ever so naturally on the back of Zoe's chair, a spot that once belonged exclusively to me, a gesture full of possessive and protective implications. Natalia, why aren't you drinking? Zoe held a brightly colored non-alcoholic fruit juice, her innocent big eyes blinking, her voice soft and sweet like a melting marshmallow. Is it because I specifically asked the bartender to make this drink for you, and you're afraid I poisoned it? Don't spoil everyone's fun. The moment her words fell, Maxwell's icy gaze swept over. That look had become increasingly familiar to me lately, impatient, scrutinizing, and carrying a lofty coldness. I instinctively shook my head, my fingernails digging hard into my palms, trying to use the pain to keep myself alert. My throat tightened, my voice somewhat hoarse. No, Zoe, you know I'm severely allergic to nuts, and this drink smells like almonds. I can't take the risk. This is just amaretto-flavored syrup, not real almonds. I already asked the bartender. Zoe pouted with a look of grievance, then turned to look at Maxwell. Maxwell, look at Natalia. Is she still blaming me for coming back and disturbing you too? I was just trying to be nice. Maxwell's face darkened instantly. He didn't respond, but instead reached directly across the table and picked up the cocktail in front of Meth, one overflowing with an air of danger. Natalia, stop throwing a tantrum. His tone left no room for discussion, only commands. In front of everyone, he shoved the glass back into my hand, even gripping my wrist tightly, forcing me to raise the cup. This is Zoe's first time hanging out with my friends, and this drink is her gesture of goodwill. You say you're allergic, but that was before. The bartender already said there's no problem. Your hesitation right now is slapping her in the face and embarrassing me. I froze, staring at the man in front of me in disbelief. Just a year ago, we were on a date at a restaurant in Chelsea, simply because a waiter wasn't sure whether the sauce contained trace amounts of peanuts. Maxwell called the manager over directly and sternly demanded that even if there was the slightest risk, the dish had to be sent back. Back then, he stood in front of me and told everyone, my girlfriend's life is 10,000 times more important than your Michelin stars. Only a year has passed, and now my life isn't worth as much as Zoe's face. Maxwell, I really can't drink. I tried to pull my hand back, fear flooding over me like a tide. I have a history of anaphylactic shock. My EpiPen is in the car. Enough. Maxwell let out a low growl, completely losing his patience. At this moment, he was no longer the gentleman boyfriend I deeply loved, but a tyrant. He abruptly stood up, one hand gripping my chin like an iron clamp, forcing me to tilt my head up. Drink it, just one sip. Prove you weren't targeting Zoe, and this matter is over. I saw my reflection in his eyes, terrified, disheveled, like a sacrifice about to be offered up. He didn't believe I would die at all. He just thought I was asserting dominance this way, throwing an unreasonable tantrum. The pungent liquid with a rich bitter almond taste was forced into my mouth by his rough actions. I struggled desperately, the liquor trickling down from the corners of my mouth, soaking my silk blouse, cold and sticky, like a viper's forked tongue. Even though I immediately tried to spit it out, a portion still slid down my throat. Almost instantly, a terrifying burning sensation exploded from my esophagus. My throat felt like it was being viciously strangled by an invisible giant hand, my windpipe rapidly swelling and closing shut. That familiar, near-death terror instantly pierced through my sanity. I clutched my neck and coughed violently, each breath becoming a luxury, the air in my lungs being drained away bit by bit. My skin started to burn, and red rashes spread across my neck and arms at a visible speed. Cough, cough. Help, help me. I collapsed to the ground, hands clawing wildly at the air, tears pouring out uncontrollably. My vision began to blur, and the loud music around me seemed separated by a thick layer of water, becoming distorted and distant. Oh my God, what's wrong with Natalia? Zoe's exclamation sounded so fake. Through the blur, I saw Maxwell still standing in place. He furrowed his brow, but didn't rush over to hold me right away. Instead, he looked down at his cuffs splashed with alcohol, a flash of obvious disgust crossing his face. Stop pretending, Natalia. His voice was as cold as winter night wind. It's just a sip of alcohol, isn't it? I've never seen you act so delicate before. You're just making everyone look bad. At that moment, what made me more desperate than suffocation was the chill of a dead heart. so in his heart. My struggle on the edge of life and death right now was nothing but a pathetic act. People around started crying out, "Something's wrong. Her face is swelling up. Call an ambulance. She's really having an allergic reaction. Get ice, quick." In the chaos, someone rushed over to support me, but I could no longer see who it was. I only felt my body getting lighter and lighter, my consciousness starting to scatter, like a withered leaf swept away by the wind. In the last second before completely sinking into darkness, I struggled to open my eyes wide, wanting to see Maxwell's expression clearly. He still stood there, not moving. Zoe leaned against him, seemingly frightened, clutching his arm tightly, whispering something. Maxwell lowered his head, softly comforting her, not even sparing a glance at me on the ground. The me who was dying. This was the man I had loved for 3 years. This was the man for whom I gave up a high-paying job in San Francisco. The man I followed even if it meant leaving my hometown far behind. In that moment, I heard the sound of something breaking inside me, not a crisp crack, but the deathly silence after a building collapsed with a thunderous roar in the storm. When I woke up again, what met my eyes was the ghastly white ceiling unique to emergency rooms. The smell of disinfectant was extremely pungent, and my throat still burned painfully, as if I had swallowed a handful of razor blades. Various tubes were inserted into my body, the fluid dripping down drop by drop, flowing through my veins, bringing waves of icy, stinging pain. The cardiac monitor beside me emitted a rhythmic beep sound, proving I was still alive. I moved my fingers slightly, my whole body aching and weak as if run over by a truck. Especially my jaw, a dull pain throbbed there, and I didn't need a mirror to know that Maxwell's fingers had left bruises. The hospital room was empty, no flowers, no tender scene of him watching over me by the bedside like I'd imagined all these years if I ever got sick. Just cold machines and the occasional passing nurse. I turned my head with effort and saw the phone on the bedside table. An unread message lit up the screen. From Maxwell. No apology, no concern, not even a single "Are you still alive?" Just a short line of text. "Ethan will bring over a check to pay for the medical bills. Now that you're awake, don't hang around the hospital. Zoe was terrified by the way you looked last night. You completely ruined the whole party. Don't overreact like that next time. It's really embarrassing." I stared at that line of text, reading it over and over 3 times, until the letters became blurry. Overreacting. Embarrassing. I nearly died last night. The doctor later told me that when I was brought in, my blood oxygen had dropped to critical levels. If the adrenaline injection had been 5 minutes later, I really would have suffocated to death from laryngeal edema. This was what he called overreacting. I turned off the phone screen. The black mirror reflected my pale, swollen face like a pathetic clown. I wanted to cry, but the tears wouldn't come. Probably because all the water in my body had been drained during last night's life and death struggle. Just then, the hospital room door was pushed open. It was Ethan who came in, Maxwell's best buddy, and also the so-called person delivering the check. He was wearing a decent suit, holding an envelope in his hand. Seeing that I was awake, there wasn't much sympathy on his face. Instead, there was a hint of impatience, like he was just completing a task. Awake. Ethan tossed the envelope onto the blanket at the foot of the bed, his tone dismissive. "Maxwell told me to tell you. This money is enough to cover the expensive ER fees and ambulance costs here. The rest is compensation for your emotional distress. He's taking Zoe to the Hamptons to relax for the next couple of days. He wants you to stay away from the apartment for now, so Zoe won't be traumatized seeing you." I looked at that white envelope as if looking at a huge joke. Traumatized. The person who almost killed me would be traumatized, while I, the victim, had to be homeless just to avoid causing trouble. "Natalia, don't be so dramatic." Seeing that I wasn't speaking, Ethan thought I was playing hard to get and lectured me with a frown. "Zoe and Maxwell grew up together. Their bond is different. She was just being nice, pushing drinks on you. She didn't know your allergy was this serious. The way you acted in public, it really looked like you were faking it for attention. It's only because Maxwell is soft-hearted that he's still willing to pay for you." Soft-hearted. I really wanted to laugh, but it tugged at the wound in my throat, triggering a fit of violent coughing. Ethan instinctively took a step back, as if I were some kind of germ carrier. I finally stopped coughing and looked up, staring at him with those bloodshot eyes. In the past, to please Maxwell, I was always polite to his fair-weather friends, even when they looked down on my background and every word they said. I always swallowed my pride. But now, I've already died once. Those masks I wore for so-called love had already shattered into dust when I downed that glass of bitter almond liquor last night. "Take your money and get lost." My voice was hoarse and broken, even unpleasant to hear, but every word was crystal clear. Ethan froze, clearly not expecting me, who had always been as meek as a lamb, to say something like this. What did you say? Are you crazy? I grabbed the envelope and hurled it at his face with all my strength. The sharp corner of the envelope grazed his cheek, leaving a red mark, then floated lightly to the ground. I said, "Take Maxwell's money and get out. Tell him, this score between us, we're not done." I pointed at the door, my eyes cold. Ethan was intimidated by my gaze. Cursed unreasonable crazy bitch, picked up the envelope, and slammed the door on his way out. The hospital room fell back into dead silence. I leaned back against the pillow, gasping for breath. That movement just now had drained all my strength, and the 4-needle on the back of my hand had blood backing up, glaringly red. I looked at that trace of red, but there was no more pain in my heart. The Natalia who humbly begged for Maxwell's trust last night had already died in that glamorous rooftop bar. The one who survived now is a Natalia who belongs only to herself, and this counterattack of mine has only just begun. On the day I was discharged from the hospital, a sudden downpour fell here without any warning. Rain washed over the gray streets, and pedestrians scurried for cover like startled ants. I didn't call a car, nor did I notify anyone. I just threw on an oversized black trench coat, turned up the collar, and walked into the rain alone. Ethan did deliver Maxwell's message. They thought I would obediently comply, staying away for that ridiculous reason of not giving Zoe psychological trauma, but I refused. I called a moving company truck, heading straight for that luxury apartment in Tribeca. It was Maxwell's property, and also the home where we had lived together for 2 years. Pushing open the heavy oak door, I was greeted by silence and a familiar fragrance, that expensive freesia scent. I once thought this was the smell of home, but now it smelled like an elaborately woven lie. Nothing in the apartment had changed. His golf bag was still in the entryway, the limited edition I had searched half the city for last week to surprise him. On the coffee table sat a half-finished glass of whiskey, the rim still bearing his lip print. There were traces of life lived everywhere, so warm and cozy it was nauseating. The movers stood at the door and asked me somewhat awkwardly, "Ma'am, which items do we need to move?" "Everything that belongs to me." I coldly scanned the room, not leaving a single thing behind. I didn't carefully sort and organize things like before. I took out a roll of huge black garbage bags and, like disposing of a corpse, began clearing out my past. Those plain-colored dresses I bought to match his taste, those baking tools I got to cook for him, and all those matching couple items. I swept them all into garbage bags. While clearing out the study, my hands froze. At the very bottom of the drawer, I found a dust-covered photo album. These were photos from when we first got together. Back then, he didn't have this elite air about him yet, and his eyes didn't have that nonchalant arrogance toward everything. One photo was taken under the Brooklyn Bridge. That day I also had a mild allergic reaction, just because I accidentally ate a cookie containing trace amounts of cashew and broke out in some rashes. In the photo, Maxwell's face was full of panic as he carried me on his back, sprinting through the crowded streets toward the nearest pharmacy. I remember that day after he bought the medicine. He kept holding me tightly, his voice trembling. "Natalia, you scared me to death. From now on, no matter what you eat, it has to go through my inspection first." That night, to put my mind at ease, he even threw away all the snacks in the house, leaving only purified water and fruit. He swore that he would be my safest line of defense. Looking at the man with those clear eyes in the photo, then thinking of the tyrant who gripped my chin and forced alcohol down my throat last night, I suddenly felt it was incredibly absurd. How can a person change so quickly? Or rather, was this his true self all along? Was all that kindness before nothing but amusement and charity before he met someone more important? The moment Zoe came back, I was knocked back to my original place. In the face of his childhood sweetheart's absolute status, I, his girlfriend of 3 years, was like a substitute that could be sacrificed at any moment. "Ma'am, do you want to take this?" the mover asked, pointing at a painting in the corner. I painted a portrait of Maxwell. It was last year's Valentine's Day gift. I spent a whole month on it. In the painting, his gaze was gentle, looking at me outside the frame. I walked over and picked up the painting. The glass of the frame reflected my current appearance: pale face, hollow eyes, yet unusually resolute. No need. I picked up a pair of scissors nearby, aimed at the canvas, and slashed down without hesitation. Rip! The sound of the canvas tearing was particularly piercing in the empty room. I slashed again and again, until that handsome face was torn to pieces, until those gentle eyes became unrecognizable blotches of color. I threw those fragments into the trash can, turned around, and said to the worker, "That one's not needed either. Just throw it in the recycling station downstairs." The cleanup went faster than I'd imagined. In less than 3 hours, all traces of me had been completely erased. Half the closet was empty. Only a lonely set of men's toiletries remained on the bathroom counter, and those books I'd read on the bookshelf, the plants I'd placed there, had all disappeared. This apartment had returned to that model home-like coldness and perfection, as if I had never been here. Finally, I walked to the kitchen. That was where I used to spend the most time, because Maxwell had a Chinese stomach but didn't like the greasiness of takeout. I, an American who grew up in California, actually learned to cook all kinds of Chinese dishes by following videos. The weekend menu we'd made together was still stuck on the fridge, listing the braised pork he loved most that we were supposed to make this week. I reached out and tore off that sticky note, crumpling it into a ball. Opening the fridge, it was packed full of ingredients I'd prepared for him. I took out a bottle of mineral water, twisted it open and took a sip. The ice-cold water flowed down my esophagus, slightly easing the burning pain in my throat. Just then, my phone started vibrating. It was Maxwell. The name flashing on the screen once made my heart flutter with joy, but now it only made me feel a visceral disgust. I watched it vibrate until it automatically hung up. Right after, he called again a second time, then a third. I finally got through, but I didn't say anything, just pressed the speakerphone and put my phone on the Marble Island counter. Natalia, what the hell are you doing? Maxwell's voice came through the speaker, carrying suppressed anger and the howling wind in the background. He seemed to be driving, or maybe on a yacht. Ethan said you kicked him out, and threw the envelope in his face. Are you crazy? Do you know how much money was in there? There wasn't the slightest trace of concern for a patient in his voice, only offended anger and unreasonableness. Where are you now? Still at the hospital. Stop making a scene and apologize to Ethan right now. Zoe's been crying over this, thinking it's her fault we're fighting. Can't you be more sensible and stop being so petty? Petty, that word again. I looked at the empty kitchen and suddenly burst out laughing. The laughter traveled through the microphone, sounding somewhat shrill. Maxwell, I finally spoke, my voice hoarse but unusually calm. I'm at the apartment. There was a pause on the other end, followed by an even bigger outburst of anger. Who told you to go back? Didn't I have Ethan tell you to stay at a hotel for a few days? Zoe's emotionally unstable right now. I don't want her seeing your stuff and getting upset. Don't worry, I cut him off. She won't see any of it. What do you mean? Because I've already moved out. I watched the workers carry the last box out the door, my tone flat. Maxwell, we're done. The other end of the phone fell into a deathly silence, with only the faint sound of static and waves crashing. A few seconds later, Maxwell let out a scoff, as if he'd heard some huge joke. Break up, Natalia. What kind of hard-to-get game are you playing? Just because of a drink? I already said I'd decompensate you. What more do you want? Want me to kneel down for you? His arrogance was like DNA carved into his bones. Even at a time like this, he still thought that as long as he was willing to lower his head and throw some money at me, I should be weeping with gratitude. It's not because of a drink. I took a deep breath, feeling that the place in my chest that once beat with love now only had an empty void left. It's because you tried to kill me, Maxwell, when you gripped my chin and forced that poison down my throat. You already killed the Natalia who loved you with your own hands. Don't make it sound so serious. Didn't the doctor say you're fine? He roared impatiently. Aren't you talking to me just fine right now? Yeah, I didn't die. Sorry to disappoint you. I didn't want to waste any more words on him. Some people's conscience was eaten by dogs, while some people simply never had a conscience to begin with. I've already cleared out all my stuff. I left the keys in the tray by the entrance. As for that emotional damages money you gave me, keep it to buy yourself a coffin. After saying that, I didn't give him any chance to argue back and hung up directly. Then came a series of smooth, flowing actions. Block his number, block his texts, block him on WhatsApp, unfollow on Instagram, change the Netflix password. Every tap on confirm felt like a small surgical procedure, cutting away the rotten flesh. After all that, I picked up one last thing, my EpiPen. I slipped it into my small bag and took one final look at this apartment that had held 2 years of my youth and stupidity. Goodbye, Tribeca. Goodbye, Maxwell. I turned and walked out the door, slamming it shut with a bang. The sound echoed through the hallway, like a long overdue verdict. It was still raining, but I didn't feel cold anymore. I flagged down a taxi with its light on by the curb. The driver was a friendly Mexican guy. Where to, miss? I gazed at the blurry skyline through the car window, the most glamorous yet most ruthless place in the world. But I knew, starting today, I was going to live again in this city. Chelsea, I said with a smile, I'm gonna treat myself to a good meal. I was craving seafood. All those oysters and lobsters I'd given up because Maxwell hated the fishy smell tonight. I was going to have my fill. In this moment, I wasn't just saying goodbye to the past, I was reclaiming my taste buds, reclaiming my life. The market was always buzzing with life. Within those red brick walls, the air was a blend of freshly baked bread, rich coffee, and that distinctive briny aroma of seafood. I found an unassuming but highly reputed seafood bar, sitting alone on a bar stool at the counter. Maxwell used to hate places like this. He thought it was noisy, crowded, full of tourists and fishy smells everywhere. Every time I suggested coming here, he would frown and take me to those Michelin French restaurants that required reservations a month in advance. So quiet you could hear a pin drop. There, I had to put on airs, cut foie gras no bigger than my thumb, and constantly worry about whether nut crumbs might get mixed into my plate. But now, I just find the noise here incredibly pleasant. A dozen oysters, one Boston lobster, steamed, butter on the side, and a glass of white wine, I said to the waiter, without having to consider anyone's preferences or worry about someone looking down on me for not being elegant enough for ordering food with shells. When that plate of plump oysters piled with crushed ice was served, I squeezed lemon juice on them and swallowed one in a single gulp. The saltiness of the sea and the fresh sweetness of the oyster exploded in my mouth, and that long-lost sense of satisfaction almost made me want to cry. This is what freedom tastes like. I ate the lobster in big bites, my fingers covered in sauce, not caring about my image at all. Everyone around was laughing and talking loudly, and no one would stare at my dining etiquette like Maxwell, signaling with his eyes for me to sit up straight. Just as I was enjoying this belated dinner, the phone on the table suddenly lit up. It was a FaceTime request from an unknown number. I hesitated for a moment, then answered. A flawlessly exquisite face appeared on the screen. Zoe. She seemed to be in a bedroom with dim, intimate lighting, and the background looked somewhat familiar. I squinted and looked carefully. It was the master bedroom of Maxwell's Hamptons villa. I had picked out the bedside lamp there. I could recognize that vintage brass finish at a glance. Oh my, Sister Natalia, I finally got through to you. Zoe's voice was still so sickeningly sweet, carrying a victor's air. She was wearing an oversized men's white shirt with a low neckline. It was Maxwell's favorite shirt, one I used to iron for him all the time. What do you want? I wiped the lobster juice off my hands. My tone as flat as if I were talking to a salesman. Zoe seemed somewhat disappointed by my reaction. She flipped her hair, deliberately revealing the messy bed behind her. It's nothing really. Maxwell's just taking a shower, and I noticed all your stuff is gone. I wanted to ask if there's been some misunderstanding. I know Maxwell and I are childhood sweethearts and our feelings run a bit deep, but you don't have to be so insecure that you'd throw a fit and run away from home. She blinked her eyes, every word like honey laced with poison. Maxwell was just complaining to me, saying you're too emotional and not at all like an adult. Sis, this is your fault. Men, you know, they all care about their pride. You embarrassed him in public that day. Of course he'd be angry, but don't worry, I'll help talk to him for you. I looked at that pretentious woman on the screen and suddenly felt Maxwell was really pitiful. He probably thought he had a pure white lotus flower, not knowing this flower had already rotted to its roots. Zoe, I interrupted her performance, the corner of my mouth curving into a mocking arc. Since you like picking up trash so much, that's your freedom. Zoe's smile froze on her face. What did you say? I said, that shirt Maxwell wore it to a really filthy underground bar last time, and threw up all over himself in the bathroom. I was planning to throw it away, but I didn't expect you wouldn't mind at all and still wear it. I was actually talking nonsense. Maxwell has a cleanliness obsession and would never keep dirty clothes, but I knew, for someone like Zoe who cares so much about perfection and cleanliness, this was enough to disgust her for quite a while. Sure enough, Zoe's face instantly turned ashen. She subconsciously tugged at her collar, as if trying to avoid some virus. Also, I continued twisting the knife. Maxwell snores in his sleep, grinds his teeth, and likes to talk in his sleep, calling out his ex-girlfriend's names. I hope you can get a good night's sleep during your days in the Hamptons. You shrew. Zoe finally couldn't keep up the act anymore, that gentle mask cracking to reveal her original mean face. Maxwell was right to dump you. You don't deserve him at all. Yeah, I don't deserve him. A bitch paired with a dog, together forever. Hope you two stay locked together, don't ever come out to harm others. After saying that, before she could scream, I quickly took a screenshot in the screen. She was wearing that dirty shirt, her expression twisted and hideous, practically modern art. Then, hung up, blocked, all in one smooth motion. I put down my phone and let out a long sigh of relief. That pent-up frustration deep in my heart had mostly dissipated after this clap back. Before, I always tolerated Zoe for Maxwell's sake, afraid of ruining their so-called pure friendship. Looking back now, I must have had water in my brain, dealing with this kind of green tea bitch. Reasoning is useless, only being meaner, crazier, and more indifferent than her can shut her up. Miss, your white wine. The waiter refilled my glass again. I raised my glass and toasted to the air, to my ex's current girlfriend. Thanks for taking in that piece of trash. After finishing my meal, I wasn't in a hurry to go back. My current place was a temporarily rented short-term apartment, though only half the size of my previous one. It won out in being cozy and comfortable. I wandered aimlessly around Chelsea Market, and stopped when I passed by a flower shop. It was a bunch of sunflowers in full bloom, their golden petals like little suns. Maxwell didn't like sunflowers. He thought they were too tacky, not elegant enough. He only allowed expensive imported roses or orchids in the house, but I liked them. I liked that vibrant, sun-seeking strength. Boss, I'll take this bunch. I walked out of the market holding that huge bunch of sunflowers, the streetlights stretching my shadow long. Just as I turned a corner, a black Bentley suddenly stopped by the curb next to me. The window rolled down, revealing Ethan's somewhat annoyed face. Natalia, I knew you'd be here. I frowned, not expecting these people to be so relentless. Ethan pushed open the door and got out, striding toward me. There was still a band-aid on his cheek, where I had cut him with the envelope yesterday. You actually blocked all of Maxwell's contacts. Do you really have a death wish? Ethan blocked my path, his tone full of accusation. Maxwell is very angry now, and the consequences will be serious. You think moving out can threaten him? You're too naive. I looked at him coldly. A good dog doesn't block the way. Ethan was fuming, reaching out to grab my arm. Don't be so ungrateful. Maxwell sent me to tell you. If you come back with me now and apologize, he might consider forgiving your little tantrum. Otherwise, all he has to do is say one word in the finance circle, and you won't be able to find a job here. This was a blatant threat. Maxwell was a Wall Street elite with a powerful family background, definitely had the ability to do it. If it were the old me, I might have been scared, might have compromised, but now, I shifted the sunflowers in my arms to my other hand, pulled out my phone, turned on the recording function, and shoved it right in Ethan's face. Come on, Ethan, say what you just said again. I want the whole city to know that a top student from the prestigious Wharton Business School is actually working as someone's pimp and intimidator. Ethan was startled by my move and instinctively covered his face while backing away. What are you doing? Are you crazy? I'm not crazy. I'm just someone with nothing to lose who's not afraid of those who do. I stepped closer, my gaze sharp. Go back and tell Maxwell. If he dares to mess with my job, I'll send all the evidence of his tax evasion, plus all that shady business between him and Zoe, straight to the media and the IRS. Don't forget, I was his personal assistant for 2 years. I know all his passwords. Ethan's face instantly turned pale. He probably forgot that the once docile Natalia was also an elite graduate from a prestigious school, and more importantly, had been Maxwell's capable assistant who cleaned up countless messes for him. I didn't speak up before because of love. Now that the love is gone, these are the nuclear weapons in my hands. You actually kept a trump card. Ethan pointed at me in disbelief. You forced me to. I sneered coldly. Now, get lost. If you don't, I'll call the police and say you're harassing me, or I'll send out a copy of those documents right now. Ethan glared at me fiercely but didn't dare to act up again. People like him cherish their lives the most and fear lawsuits the most. He cursed under his breath as he got back into the car and sped off with a stomp on the gas, watching the taillights disappear into the distance. I put away my phone and gently stroked the sunflowers in my arms. Actually, I didn't have any substantial evidence of tax evasion. Maxwell was very careful in his dealings, but I knew their weakness. They had guilty consciences, and they were afraid of losing their glamorous lives. That was enough. This is the law of survival in this steel jungle. You have to bare your fangs, or others will treat you as prey. Holding the flowers, I walked into the subway station with my head held high. The evening breeze blew past, and the sunflower petals trembled slightly, as if applauding my battle just now. The moonlight tonight is truly beautiful. Monday morning, the subway was still packed like a can of sardines. Holding my laptop, I surged out of the subway station with the crowd and took a deep breath of air tinged with car exhaust and the aroma of coffee. This was my first workday after becoming single again, and also my 3rd month at the new company. I work as a senior editor at a fashion magazine. Because I had to take care of Maxwell's daily life and help him manage various personal affairs, I turned down many business trips and promotion opportunities, willingly being a supportive wife behind him. Looking back now, I must have had water in my brain the entire Pacific Ocean's worth. As soon as I walked into the office, my bestie and colleague Mia came rolling over on her chair and handed me a cup of extra strong Americano. "Babe, you're looking great." Mia looked me up and down, her eyes full of admiration. "I heard you dumped that scumbag and moved out. Well done." Mia was the only person in the entire company who knew the full story of my allergy incident. That day at the hospital, she was also the first to rush over to be with me, cursing Maxwell while helping me with the discharge paperwork. "Absolutely." I took the coffee, smiled and winked. "I feel amazing now, like I've shed a 200-pound burden." "That's good." Mia lowered her voice, her expression suddenly turning a bit serious. "But there's some bad news. I heard we're getting a new advertising director, parachuted in from above, apparently with a very powerful background." "So what? What does that have to do with our editorial department?" I opened my computer indifferently. "The thing is," Mia hesitated, "I heard this new director's last name is Whitmore, and he transferred from some big investment bank." My hand paused on the keyboard. Last name Whitmore, investment bank. An ominous feeling welled up in my heart, but before I could think it over, the editor-in-chief's assistant came over to announce, "Everyone, go to the main conference room in 10 minutes to welcome the new advertising director." 10 minutes later, when that figure in a custom-tailored dark blue suit pushed open the door and walked in, the entire conference room fell silent. It wasn't Maxwell. I let out a sigh of relief, but the next second, that breath got stuck in my throat. It was Maxwell's cousin, Patrick Whitmore. Maxwell's family was very influential in New York. Although Maxwell was doing well for himself on Wall Street, this cousin Patrick was said to be the real power holder of the family, keeping a low profile yet acting swiftly and decisively, his methods 100 times more ruthless than Maxwell's. I had only met Patrick once or twice at family gatherings. He always sat far away in a corner, holding a glass of wine, his gaze unfathomable, making me instinctively feel intimidated. I never expected he would parachute into a fashion magazine like ours. Patrick's gaze swept across the room and actually lingered on me for 2 seconds. That look wasn't sharp, but rather carried a hint of amusement, making me feel uncomfortable all over. "Hello everyone, I'm Patrick." His voice was deep and magnetic. "I don't like wasting words. Before this Friday, I want to see the proposals for all advertising plans for next quarter. I don't keep slackers around. Those who can't deliver, hand in your resignation yourself." The entire room fell into dead silence. So this is what the oppressive aura of a capitalist feels like. After the meeting ended, I was just about to slip back to my desk when the editor-in-chief stopped me. "Natalia, Director Patrick asked for you by name." My heart skipped a beat. Could Maxwell have sent him to mess with me? That threat about Ethan was just a bluff. But if Maxwell really complained to the family, I took a deep breath, smoothed out my skirt, and walked into the office that once belonged to the former director but was now filled with Patrick's presence. "Sit." Patrick didn't even look up, flipping through a document. I sat down somewhat nervously. "Director Whitmore, you wanted to see me." Patrick finally looked up. Those eyes that bore some resemblance to Maxwell's yet were much deeper staring at me, the corner of his lips curving into a half-smile. "I heard you dumped Maxwell, so he really was here to call me out." I straightened my back, no longer meek and submissive like before. The worst that could happen was losing my job anyway. If this place won't keep me, somewhere else will. "Yes." I looked him straight in the eye. "This is my personal matter. It shouldn't affect work." "Right. Of course not." Patrick closed the file, leaned back, resting against the chair. "I just wanted to say well done." "Huh." I froze, thinking I had misheard. Patrick stood up, walked over to the coffee machine, poured himself a cup of water, and poured one for me as well. "Maxwell was spoiled rotten since childhood, blind in eyes and heart. That Zoe, her whole family are bloodsuckers, and only that idiot Maxwell treats her like a treasure." Patrick handed me the water glass, his tone carrying undisguised contempt. "I've disliked him for a long time. That you could see things clearly and cut your losses in time shows you're smarter than I thought." I took the water glass, momentarily unable to process this. How come the plot direction seems a bit off? "So, you're not here to avenge him?" I asked tentatively. Patrick chuckled softly, leaned down, braced both hands on the desk, that aggressively handsome face closing in on me. "Avenge? For that idiot? Do I have that much free time?" He paused, his gaze suddenly turning serious. "I came to you because I've read several of your feature reports on independent women's lifestyles. Sharp writing, unique perspectives, but for some reason I'm guessing it's because of Maxwell you've always been kept on the back burner. I don't like seeing talent go to waste. Next month's cover feature, I'm planning to put you in charge." "Cover feature?" That's a project only editor-in-chief level can touch. But, my qualifications. In my team, I only look at ability, not qualifications. Patrick cut me off. What? Don't dare to take it. Or are you saying, after leaving Maxwell, you've lost your ambition? This is the goading tactic, but I have to admit, it works. Looking at the man in front of me, I suddenly felt he wasn't as terrifying as the rumors said. On the contrary, he gave me a chance to prove myself. A chance that didn't require relying on anyone, didn't require reading anyone's expression. A chance that belonged only to me. I'll take it. I put down the glass, my eyes determined. I'll give you the best proposal. Very good. Patrick nodded with satisfaction. Get to work. Oh right. If that idiot Maxwell comes to harass you again, just tell me. I can make his subsidiaries cash flow break for a few days. Keep him too busy to bother you. I opened my mouth in surprise, but in the end only managed to squeeze out, "Thank you." When I walked out of the office, my steps felt much lighter. You see, when God closes a door for you, He really does open a window for you. As long as you dare to take that step, dare to cut off those people and things that drain you, the whole world will make way for you. Over the next few days, I threw myself into work like I was on adrenaline. Research, interviews, writing drafts, revising drafts. I practically lived at the office. Even Mia said I was crazy, but I knew this sense of fulfillment was something no relationship could give me. This was me building my own future brick by brick. Every drop of sweat counted. Friday night, I finally submitted the proposal. Patrick only looked at it for 10 minutes before writing 2 words. Approved. I was so happy I wanted to dance in the office. To celebrate, Mia suggested we go to a trendy bar to unwind. We had just found a booth and sat down. Hadn't even had time to order drinks, when a figure I didn't want to see appeared in my line of sight. It's Maxwell, but he didn't look as glamorous as the rumors suggested. His stubble was messy, and there were dark circles under his eyes. Clearly he hadn't rested well. Zoe wasn't by his side, only Ethan with a bitter expression on his face. They seemed to be socializing with a group of people. Maxwell was holding a wine glass, his smile somewhat stiff, even carrying a hint of flattery. That's Maxwell. Mia covered her mouth in surprise. How did he end up like this? Isn't that old Wong who does venture capital? Maxwell wouldn't even spare a glance at people like him before. I watched coldly from the sidelines. It seemed Patrick wasn't joking. Maxwell's days were indeed not going well. Just then, Maxwell seemed to sense something and turned his head. Our eyes met. I saw the astonishment in his eyes, which quickly transformed into a complex mix of anger, surprise, and frustration. He put down his wine glass and strode toward me, ignoring the client he was talking to. Natalia. He rushed up to me and reached out to grab me. Mia immediately stood in front of me like a mother hen protecting her chick. What do you think you're doing? Keep your hands to yourself. Maxwell completely ignored Mia and just stared at me intently. You actually have the mood to drink here. Do you know how crazy I've been looking for you these past few days? Do you know how big the problems at the company are? None of my damn business. I took a sip of my cocktail and said indifferently, "You." Maxwell's face turned red with anger. Did Patrick come to you? Did you say something to him? Otherwise, why would he suddenly cut off my project funding? So that's what this is about. He thinks I'm the one pulling strings behind the scenes. Maxwell, you overestimate me, and you also overestimate your position in your cousin's heart. I put down my wine glass, stood up, still wearing that black suit he thought was too aggressive, but my aura was already far different from before. I'm just doing my job and living my life. As for your bad luck, that's karma for your shitty character. Don't go pinning every piece of crap on me. You've changed. Maxwell looked at me, a hint of unfamiliarity flashing in his eyes. You weren't like this before. You used to be so gentle, so obedient. Yeah, the gentle, obedient Natalia from before was killed by your own hands at that rooftop bar. I stepped closer to him, my gaze icy cold. The me now is called the new Natalia. Got it. Get lost. Maxwell was intimidated by my presence and actually stepped back instinctively. People around started pointing and whispering. Ethan ran over trying to pull Maxwell away, but was shoved off. Fine, just fine. Maxwell nodded through gritted teeth. Natalia, don't regret this. Without me, let's see how you survive in New York. When you can't afford rent, don't come crying to me. With that, he turned and left in disgrace. Watching his retreating figure, I didn't feel heartache like before, just amusement. Beg you. Sorry. My quarterly bonus next quarter could probably buy that car you're driving right now. I turned around and clinked my glass with Mia. To Neo-Huru Natalia, Mia said with a big laugh. To freedom. I downed it in one gulp. This wine, so sweet. On a weekend morning, I was woken up by a frantic phone ringing. It was Mia. Natalia. Check Instagram now. That green tea bitch Zoe has gone crazy. I rubbed my sleepy eyes and fumbled for my phone on the nightstand. Although I had already unfollowed and blocked Zoe. In this connected world, as long as someone wants to stir up drama, news will always find its way over on Wings. Mia sent me a few screenshots. Zoe had posted a long story, with a photo of her getting in for at the hospital, medical tape on the back of her hand, her face showing just the right amount of paleness and fragility. The caption read, "I always thought childhood friendship was the purest. Never expected it to be misunderstood like this. Someone faked an allergic shock at a party to gain sympathy, then took a huge sum of emotional damages, and even pulled strings to suppress Maxwell's company. I got so upset my old illness relapsed and I ended up in the hospital. I don't blame anyone. I just hope everyone can see certain people's true colors. In this world, being weak doesn't make you right." Below that was a photo of Maxwell peeling an apple for her by the hospital bed. A scene so heartwarming it was nauseating. Although no names were mentioned, anyone who knows even a little about our circle knows exactly who someone refers to. The comment section had already exploded, with a bunch of righteous bystanders who popped up from God knows where and Zoe's plastic besties stirring up drama like crazy down below. "Oh my god, faking an allergic shock, that's so manipulative. Taking money and still trying to bring down her ex's company. This woman is ruthless. Feel so bad for Zoe. Hugs to the pretty girl. Women like this deserve to be exposed." Looking at these words that twisted the truth, anger flared up inside me in an instant. Is this the so-called victim blaming? I nearly lost my life. And in their words it became faking. I threw away that check. And in their words it became took a huge payout. Maxwell's company had problems because Patrick couldn't stand him. What does that have to do with me? The most ridiculous part was that Maxwell actually let her post this stuff. He knew perfectly well what the truth was, knew how much danger I was in back then, but he chose to stay silent, chose to play along with Zoe's performance, and maybe even fanned the flames behind the scenes, all to cover up the real reason his company was in trouble and shift the blame onto me, the vicious ex-girlfriend. Fine, just fine. Since you're sticking your faces out asking to be slapped, then don't mind if I do. I sprang up from the bed and opened my laptop. As a senior editor, playing the PR war game, I'm a pro at this. I didn't need to trade insults with her like some sure facts speak louder than words. I gathered the following items. The diagnosis report from the emergency room that day. It clearly stated, anaphylactic shock, laryngeal edema, respiratory failure, immediate resuscitation, time, location, doctor's signature, everything was there. The surveillance footage from when Ethan went to the hospital to throw the check. Although there was no sound, the footage clearly showed that he was the one who threw the envelope on my bed with an arrogant attitude, while I directly threw the envelope back in his face and didn't take a single cent. Thanks to the high-definition cameras the hospital installed to prevent medical disputes, I had specifically requested this footage back then to gather evidence for a complaint about Ethan's harassment. The screen recording screenshot from my last FaceTime with Zoe. That photo of her wearing Maxwell's vomit shirt with a hideous expression. Finally, and most crucially, I found a video from the party that day in my cloud backup. An influencer at the next table was live streaming at the time and unintentionally captured the entire process of Maxwell forcibly grabbing my chin and pouring alcohol down my throat. Although the camera was a bit shaky, that action, that line "drink it, don't throw a tantrum," was captured crystal clear. I compiled these pieces of evidence into a 9-grid collage, with only one simple caption. The allergy was real, the shock was real, and nearly dying was real too. I threw the check back, didn't take a single cent. As for who's lying, surveillance footage and medical records don't lie. Also, Maxwell did throw up on that shirt. Hope you enjoy wearing it, Zoe. I didn't post it on my private close friends list, but directly on my public Instagram and Facebook, with the hashtag that influencer was using during her livestream Manhattan rooftop party. Send. After doing all this, I closed my laptop and went to the kitchen to make myself a fancy avocado toast breakfast. Less than half an hour later, my phone started buzzing like crazy. Not just likes and comments, but countless DMs and reposts. That influencer had quite a few people in her livestream at the time. As soon as the video dropped, it immediately caused a reversal. Oh my god, this guy is such trash. Right, this is murder. Pinching her chin to force feed her alcohol. This is a severe nut allergy. Is this guy a sociopath? That woman actually said it was faking. The medical records are right in her face and she's still defending him. That shirt. Ha 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 ha. I'm dying laughing. Picking up trash to wear and still so happy about it. Public opinion reversed instantly. Under Zoe's story, the original flood of poor thing comments was quickly drowned out by insults. Someone even dug up Zoe's dark history of bullying classmates back in school. And Maxwell's social media accounts completely fell. Countless people flooded in to call him a potential murderer and control freak. My phone rang. This time, it was Maxwell calling. I looked at that familiar number, pressed answer without hesitation, but I didn't say anything. Natalia, delete those things right now. Maxwell's furious roar came through. This is defamation. This is invasion of privacy. I'll sue you. Sue me. I took a leisurely sip of coffee. Sure. Then let's have the judge take a look at whether forcing someone to drink until their life was in danger counts as intentional assault, or maybe premeditated murder. The other end of the line went dead silent instantly. Maxwell was arrogant, but he wasn't stupid. He knew if this went to court, he'd be the one going to jail. Natalia, there's no need for things between us to get this ugly, right? His tone softened, turning into that slightly pleading voice I used to hate the most. Zoe was being immature and posted without thinking. I've already made her delete it. Can you delete yours too, please? This is really hurting my company. Shareholders are questioning me. Maxwell, I cut him off. What does your company have to do with me? You weren't like this before. You used to care about my career the most. The old Natalia did that because she loved you. I looked at the sunlight outside the window, my voice calm and cold. The current Natalia does it to love herself. You destroyed all my illusions about love. Almost destroyed my life. And now you want me to cover for your career. Dream on. I won't delete it. Not only will I not delete it, I'll also send this evidence to your company's board of directors. Let them see whether a CEO who lacks basic humanity and moral standards can run a company properly. You wouldn't dare. Maxwell shrieked. Watch me. I hung up the phone. This time, I didn't block him again. I wanted to keep this channel open, listening to his impotent rage, watching him step by step toward collapse. This is what they call satisfying. Not hysterical revenge, but standing on high ground, coldly watching those who once hurt you struggle in the mud, while you remain untouched by a speck of dust. In the afternoon, Mia sent me a message. So satisfying. I heard Maxwell has been suspended by the board for investigation. That Zoe also deleted her account. Seems like she's been doxxed so badly she doesn't dare go out. I replied with a sunglasses smile emoji. Just then, the doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole and saw a delivery person in uniform, holding a large bouquet of vibrant, luscious red roses. I opened the door and signed for the flowers. There was a card tucked in the bouquet, with just one line written in bold, flamboyant handwriting. Well done, free for dinner tonight, to celebrate your rebirth, Patrick. It was Patrick. I looked at that bouquet of roses, red as fire, and a playful smile tugged at the corner of my lips. It seemed this show was getting more and more interesting, but I didn't reply immediately. Instead, I put the flowers in a vase and placed them next to the bouquet of sunflowers. The me of now doesn't need to depend on anyone, nor rush into the next relationship. I have work, friends, the courage to fight back, and a room full of sunshine. That's enough. 2 months later, spring had fully unfurled, and the tulips in Central Park were blooming with reckless abandon. My life, like these flowers, was experiencing a magnificent bloom of its own. The cover feature Patrick assigned me was a huge success. Not only did it break sales records, but it also caused quite a stir in the industry. As a result, I was promoted to deputy editor-in-chief ahead of schedule, with my own private office. That weekend, to celebrate my promotion, I decided to treat myself to a bag. It was a luxury department store I'd never even dared to dream about before, not because I couldn't afford it, but because Maxwell always said, Natalia, your vibe suits more understated brands. Those big logos aren't for you. The subtext was actually, you're a supporting character. Don't be too flashy. Don't steal the spotlight. Now, screw being understated. Wearing 7-centimeter red bottom heels and that white blazer dress Patrick once praised as very commanding, I walked through that revolving door. When I walked out of the boutique carrying that pricey limited edition bag, I happened to see a couple walking toward me. Enemies always cross paths. It was Maxwell and Zoe. But the way they looked now was a far cry from their glamorous selves at the supermarket 2 months ago. Maxwell had lost a lot of weight. That once crisp haute couture suit now looked somewhat baggy on him, his chin covered with stubble that hadn't been shaved clean, his eyes gloomy and exhausted. I heard that because of that scandal plus Patrick's behind the scenes pressure, he had been kicked out of the core management by the board, and now only held a nominal idle position. And Zoe was even worse off. She had also lost her previous refinement, her makeup looking a bit cakey, And what she was carrying was no longer Hermes but an ordinary affordable luxury brand shopping bag. It seemed Maxwell's financial situation had indeed deteriorated significantly, and he could no longer afford this canary's lavish spending. They were arguing. I already told you this card has a limit. Can you stop buying stuff? Maxwell lowered his voice, his tone full of impatience. I only bought a pair of shoes. When Natalia was around, you weren't this stingy, Zoe retorted in a shrill voice, completely disregarding the stares from people around them. Shut up, don't mention her, Maxwell growled. Just then, Zoe spotted me, her eyes instantly widened, staring fixedly at the orange shopping bag in my hand, her gaze filled with jealousy and disbelief. Natalia, Maxwell suddenly looked up. When he saw me, he froze completely. I stood just a few steps away from them, makeup impeccable, looking radiant, holding a bag he probably couldn't even bring himself to buy now. This stark contrast was like a silent slap, hitting them hard across their faces. I didn't hide, nor did I turn away. I just glanced at them casually, like glancing at two insignificant trash cans by the roadside, my eyes showing no anger, no hatred, not even any emotion. That was complete indifference. The opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference. I lifted my foot and kept walking, my high heels tapping out a crisp rhythm on the marble floor. Natalia, wait. Maxwell suddenly shook off Zoe and rushed over to block my path. How have you been lately? His voice trembled slightly, his eyes lingering greedily on my face, as if searching for the girl who once only had eyes for him. I stopped, frowning slightly, as if bothered by some salesperson blocking my way. Excuse me, just 2 words, cold and distant. Natalia, I know you're still angry, Maxwell said urgently. I know I was wrong now. Zoe, she's not right for me at all. I've been thinking about you all this time, thinking about how good you were, thinking about the food you cooked, thinking about our home in Tribeca. Maxwell, Zoe rushed over from behind, fuming. What are you saying? You're breaking up with me. Maxwell shoved her away. Get lost. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have lost Natalia, wouldn't have lost the company. You bastard, Zoe cried, trying to grab his face. The two of them put on a dog-eat-dog farce right there in this upscale mall. People around were watching the spectacle, whispering among themselves. I watched the scene before me, feeling surprisingly calm. I used to think Maxwell was my everything, that I would die without him. Now it seems he's nothing but a coward with no responsibility who only knows how to shift blame when things go wrong. Had enough, I said coldly. The two of them stopped what they were doing and looked at me. Maxwell, you look really pathetic right now. I looked him up and down with a hint of pity in my eyes. You don't miss me. You just miss having a free nanny and tool who let you manipulate her, sacrificed for you, and handled everything for you. Since you chose this little white lotus, then be a man about it together even if you're going to rot. As for you, Zoe, I turned to the woman whose makeup was all ruined. This is the treasure you schemed so hard to steal. Congratulations. Great catch. Wonderful snatch, don't ever let go. I wish you two 100 years of happiness, tormenting each other until your hair turns white. With that, I turned aside, elegantly walked around them, and left without looking back. Behind me came Maxwell's desperate cry. Natalia, I really regret it. Give me one more chance. I didn't stop, didn't even break my stride. Some chances, once missed, are gone forever. Walking out of the mall entrance, a silver-gray Aston Martin was parked by the roadside. The window rolled down, revealing Patrick's handsome and cold face. He was wearing sunglasses, one hand resting on the steering wheel, and when he saw me come out, the corner of his lips curved up slightly. This is your trophy. He pointed at the bag in my hand. Sort of. I pulled open the car door and sat in the passenger seat. But the biggest trophy was watching two mad dogs tear into each other. Patrick let out a laugh and handed me a warm cup of milk tea. Milk tea again. Don't you only drink black coffee? I was a bit surprised. Picked it up on the way. He started the car. I heard a certain someone bought herself a cup at Chelsea Market last time and really enjoyed it. I thought, maybe you'd like it. I held that cup of milk tea, a warm current surging through my heart. This wasn't flattery, this was observation, respect, thoughtfulness. The car slid into the traffic, through the rearview mirror. I took one last look at that revolving door. Maxwell and Zoe were still inside, tangled up with each other, but their figures grew smaller and smaller until they completely disappeared from my sight. Goodbye, past. This time, it's really goodbye forever. What do you want to eat tonight? Patrick asked. Hot pot, I said without hesitation. The extra spicy kind. Okay. Patrick didn't ask why, nor did he say it was unhealthy, just turned the steering wheel. I know a good one in Flushing. I'll take you there. I turned my head, watching the scenery retreat outside the window. The lights were still dazzling, and I had finally become the freest one among all these city lights. The hot pot restaurant in Flushing was steaming hot, red chili oil rolling in the copper pot, the spicy aroma aggressively drilling into my nostrils, instantly bringing me back to life. Patrick took off his suit jacket, wearing only a dark gray shirt with sleeves rolled up, revealing his toned forearms. This usually aloof and unapproachable investment banking big shot, the cold-faced director of the magazine, was now clumsily holding a slotted ladle, helping me blanch tripe. 7 up, 8 down. Is that right? He counted the seconds seriously, brows slightly furrowed, as if handling $100 million merger deal. His expression made me laugh. That's about right. Any longer and it'll get tough. He placed the blanched tripe into my dipping sauce dish, the motion so natural as if we had shared countless meals like this. Try it. I picked it up and put it in my mouth, crispy, tender, and bursting with spice. Perfect. I gave a thumbs up. Patrick watched me, a hint of smile flashing in his eyes. He himself didn't eat much, spending most of the time helping me blanch vegetables, pour water, and even carefully dividing the shrimp paste into bit-sized pieces for me. This is completely different from Maxwell. When eating with Maxwell, I was always the one taking care of him. I had to remember he didn't eat green onions, ginger, or garlic, had to peel shrimp for him, had to constantly watch whether his glass was empty, and he would just take it all for granted, occasionally commenting the shrimp is a bit tough today. What are you thinking about? Patrick's voice pulled me back from my thoughts. Thinking about how unreal this feels. I put down my chopsticks, looking at him. Patrick, why are you so good to me? I'd been holding this question in for a long time. He was Maxwell's cousin. My boss. Our interactions should have been limited to work, even if it was to get back at Maxwell. Had done way too much. Patrick put down the slotted spoon and grabbed a napkin to wipe his hands. He didn't answer right away, but picked up the iced beer beside him and took a sip, looking at me with deep eyes. Natalia, actually I noticed you a long time ago. His voice was low, yet it reached my ears clearly in the noisy hot pot restaurant. 2 years ago, that was the first time Maxwell brought you to a family gathering. That day, you were helping Grandma prune the rose bushes in the garden, and you pricked your hand, but you were still smiling and comforting Grandma, telling her not to worry. At that moment, I thought to myself, what did that scoundrel Maxwell ever do to deserve such a wonderful girl? I froze. I remembered that gathering, but I thought only Maxwell had been there. Later, I found out you gave up your job in San Francisco for him, willing to be the shadow behind him. I watched you help him organize files, clean up his messes, watched you change your clothing style to cater to his preferences. I was furious, but I had no right to say anything. Patrick smiled self-deprecatingly. Until that day, when I heard you were taken to the emergency room, I immediately checked the surveillance footage and saw what that bastard did to you. At that moment, I really wanted to kill him. A hint of ruthlessness flashed in his eyes, then quickly softened into tenderness. Natalia, I'm helping you not because of Maxwell, nor out of pity. It's because I think you don't deserve to be treated that way. You're a gem. You shouldn't be rolling around in the mud. I don't know if you can accept a new relationship right now, and I don't want to pressure you. I just want you to know that there's someone in this world who knows how to appreciate your brilliance. The confession came out of nowhere, yet was so sincere it was impossible to resist. No fancy words, no grand gestures, just here amid the smoky warmth of hot pot. He cut open his heart and showed it to me. I looked at this man before me. He was mature, steady, respected me, and even understood me. If it were the me from 2 months ago, I might have run away out of fear of getting hurt again. But now, in the new Natalia, since I had the courage to cut off the past, why wouldn't I have the courage to embrace the future? Patrick, I picked up my wine glass and swayed it at him. I'm not sure if I can give you the same emotional response right now, but I'm willing to try to get to know you, not as Maxwell's cousin, not as my boss, but as Patrick. Patrick's eyes lit up. He raised his glass and gently clinked it with mine. Deal. After dinner, Patrick drove me home. The car stopped downstairs of my short-term rental apartment. Get some rest early. He didn't eagerly demand a goodnight kiss like Maxwell would, just gentlemanly helped me unbuckle my seatbelt. You too. I was about to get out of the car when my phone suddenly rang. It was an unknown number, but I had a gut feeling. I knew who it was. I answered. Natalia. An extremely weak voice came through the phone, with static noise. It was Maxwell. I'm at the usual place. My stomach is bleeding. It hurts so much. Can you come pick me up? His voice sounded really pitiful, like he was about to die. Before Whenever he had the slightest headache or fever, I would be worried sick. Even getting up in the middle of the night to cook him porridge and bring him medicine, he was probably at his wit's end, and truly in so much pain, that he put aside all his pride to call me at this moment. Or perhaps, he still thought I was the same Natalia who would go soft on him. I glanced at Patrick beside me, who looked alert, and made a reassuring gesture at him. Maxwell, my voice was calm without a single ripple. Natalia, save me. Zoe doesn't care about me anymore. Only you treat me the best. He started crying on the other end, like an abandoned child. Maxwell, do you know, when I woke up in the emergency room that day, my throat hurt so much I couldn't speak, and my whole body was shaking. I also really wanted someone to come save me, even if it was just to hand me a glass of water. The crying on the other end of the phone paused for a moment, but all I had was the check Ethan threw at me and your accusations. I'm sorry, I really know I was wrong. Stomach bleeding, right, I said coldly. You should call 911, or find your Zoe. I don't owe you anything, and am not your savior. Natalia, you can't be so heartless. I'll die, then go die somewhere far away. After I said that, I hung up the phone directly. This time, I also added this number to my blacklist. Putting down my phone, I turned my head and found Patrick staring at me intently, his eyes full of appreciation and relief. Settled? He asked. Yeah, completely settled. I unfastened my seatbelt, leaned over, and gently pressed a kiss on his cheek. Good night, Patrick. Then, I pushed open the car door and walked into the apartment building without looking back. Behind me, Patrick's car lights were still on, like a lighthouse keeping watch, and that Maxwell who was crying and screaming in the middle of the night because of stomach bleeding, the man who once occupied my entire youth, had finally become completely a thing of the past. In this world, no one is indispensable to anyone. When you learn to love yourself, those obstacles you once thought you couldn't get past all become the path beneath your feet. A few months flew by like a fleeting moment. Summer was passionate and unrestrained, just like my life now. Patrick kept his word. He really was a great partner, and also an excellent suitor. He didn't put any pressure on me, just quietly seeped into my life like rain nourishing everything silently. Weekend art exhibitions, late-night overtime meals, an occasional bouquet of sunflowers appearing on my desk all reminding me what it feels like to be treated with care. As for news about Maxwell and Zoe, it would still occasionally reach my ears through MIA's gossip network. I heard Maxwell was completely marginalized by his family due to tax issues and company losses, and the mansion and sports car under his name were all sold off to pay debts. He and Zoe had broken up long ago. Apparently on the day they split, the two got into a fight in their rented apartment. Zoe scratched up his face and ran off with his last bit of cash. That once high and mighty Wall Street elite could now only work as an ordinary employee at some unremarkable small company, squeezing onto the subway every day, eating fast food. As for Zoe, reportedly after failing to hook another rich second-generation heir, she slunk back to her hometown in disgrace. When I heard all this, I was preparing for next month's Paris Fashion Week. Isn't that too pathetic? Mia gloated while helping me organize the sample clothes. It's basically instant karma. I smiled, hanging up a haute couture dress. You reap what you sow. Not worth sympathizing with. I rarely think about them anymore now. They're like a moldy reel of film from my life cut out, thrown away, and then forgotten. The day before leaving for Paris, I went to Central Park. On the bench there, Maxwell and I once sat. Back then, I thought that was forever. Now, I sit here alone, holding a cup of iced Americano, watching pigeons forage at my feet. Sunlight filtered through the gaps in the leaves, sprinkling onto my body, dappled and shifting. My phone buzz at it was a message from Patrick. Have you packed? The flight's tomorrow. I'll pick you up. For this Paris trip. He was the senior executive leading the team, and I was the core editor-in-chief. I replied with one word. Okay. Just as I put down my phone, a familiar yet unfamiliar figure suddenly appeared in my field of vision. It was Maxwell. He was wearing a wrinkled cheap shirt, holding a briefcase, looking like he'd just gotten off work, tiredly sitting on the bench across from me gnawing on a sandwich. Had gotten so thin he was unrecognizable, his eyes clouded, completely devoid of his former spirit. He saw me too. In that instant, his movements froze, and the sandwich in his hand fell to the ground. I just sat there, wearing a silk blouse, sunglasses on, glamorous and radiant, composed and calm. A small path separated us, yet it felt like two different worlds apart. Maxwell moved his lips, as if wanting to call my name, or perhaps rush over, but in the end, he did nothing. He probably saw the bodyguard not far from Meth one Patrick had arranged for me. Or perhaps he saw the complete unfamiliarity in my eyes. He lowered his head, silently picked up the sandwich from the ground, dusted it off, and took another bite. That gesture was full of bitterness and dejection, but I didn't feel any sympathy. I stood up, smoothed out my skirt, and turned to leave. This time, I truly didn't look back, not even once. The next day, at the airport, Patrick was already waiting for me in the departure lounge. He wore a casual khaki trench coat, holding 2 passports in his hand. When he saw me approaching, those deep eyes instantly filled with warmth. Ready, he took my suitcase and naturally held my hand. His palm was broad and warm, dry and strong, without hesitation, only certainty. I glanced at the massive floor-to-ceiling windows outside, where a plane was taxiing on the runway, about to soar into the sky. Ready, I gripped his hand tightly. This time, I was going to fly toward a broader sky, to see every impression, sunrise around the world, to taste all the cuisines the world had to offer, to love someone truly worth loving, most importantly, to love myself, the one who had endured hardships and finally emerged from the cocoon as a butterfly. The moment the plane took off, I watched the island below grow smaller and smaller. Those painful, suffocating, lowly pasts were all left behind on the ground, turning into insignificant dust. Ahead was the sunlight at 10,000 meters high, golden and brilliant, so dazzling it made one want to cry. This was the ending, and also a new beginning.